Hey, Doug Faith here with Legacy Capital, and I wanted to take a minute and walk you through our construction budget and construction draw process. So, what you see here, this is our construction draw template that we give to our clients to fill out, and this is the document that we use to manage the budget as well as manage the funding of construction draws, as many of our clients are doing construction projects. So this is an actual property here for that we funded for a client in Philadelphia in the Point Breeze section. And I'm just going to go through column by column here and explain things just so everything's crystal clear, so that you have no questions when you're filling out the items here. So you can come up here, you just put the full address in this section, and then for the description of work, we've got 19 line items here that we've created for you, where you can go in and then fill in the budget for each of those line items. You don't have to use all 19 line items, and in fact, if you want to come in and change some of these line items, you can. This is really just here as a guide for you to use, but again, you can sort of redo these line items if you feel the need to change them. Then you're going to come over to the total budget, and in this column, you're going to put the total budget for each line item, right? So for here, our client submitted this to us. He had $1,500 for permits, $6,400 for flooring, $4,000 for painting, $2,000 for fixtures, and so on and so on. And then if you come down to the bottom here, the total number is $70,500. One of the things that's important that we're seeing sometimes with a lot of our clients is this number is not matching up to the number that we're holding for construction. And sometimes that may be because their construction numbers are a little bit higher and maybe the funds aren't covering all of it. But when you're filling out this spreadsheet and submitting it to us, it's super important that this total number here equal the money that we're withholding for construction. And again, the reason being is this is the document that we're going to be using to manage the construction draws. So again, $70,500 in this scenario, it must be equal to the amount that we are holding for construction. So, for example, and I forget the exact numbers on this, but let's say the total loan amount was $100,000, okay? Let's just make it simple math. The total loan amount was $100,500, and then at closing, we funded $30,000. Right? That would mean that we're withholding $70,500 for construction, and then that should in fact match this number here, which in this example it does. All right? And then as you start making draw requests, you're going to fill in how much you want for each line item for each draw, and I'm going to come back to that in a second. And as you fill it in, these columns here, J and K, are going to auto-populate. So as you fill it in, it's going to track how much of that line item has been completed and then how much is left to finish. So just as an example, all right, let's say they've started construction, so they've already gotten their permits back. And so for drawer 1, they're going to ask for $1,500. For flooring, at the beginning of a project, flooring is usually the last thing you do, so they're probably not asking anything there. Painting, again, happens towards the end. Fixtures, maybe they, I don't know, have a few fixtures that they want to get reimbursed for. Let's say they've spent their full hardware budget and they've gone ahead and put windows in. Okay, and this is their first draw request that they're submitting to us. So in other words, in this scenario, they'd be asking for, on drawer number 1, $5,280. All right, and then you can come up here for the draw and you can just put the date. Today's 7/1, so I'm going to, put the, oh, gonna have to change the formatting of cells there, so that's proper. There we go, right? So I'm just gonna put the date there, so this way we can keep track of that. And so it auto adds up the total draw request down here. So in this scenario, they're requesting $5,280, and then it also auto populates here, right? So now when we're looking at it, we could see if this draw gets fully funded, we've funded $1,500. And there's no money left in that line item. If you come down to fixtures, again, the same thing. It would show us that there's $1,500 left. And then if you look at it in total or aggregate, once we spend the $5,280 fund the $5,280, you've got a balance of $65,220. So what's great about this is it allows you to see where you are with the project and how much funds you have left, and allows us to do the same. Because keep in mind, when we're sending the inspector out there to inspect the property, remember, we're reimbursing you dollar for dollar for money spent. It's got to be work completed. So for example, if when the inspector comes out and you're asking $2,600 for windows, if those windows aren't on site and installed, they're not going to disperse that $2,600, and they may have to end up adjusting the draw for that. I'm going to put it back here. But again, we reimburse dollar for dollar for work completed. And then the other thing that the inspector is looking for is how much money is it going to take to complete the job. So for example, if, let's say on drawer number 1, the inspector does go ahead and disperse $500 for this budget, it's showing that there's $1,500 left for fixtures. So the other thing, and that's why this column is important, and we also want you to understand how we look at it and how the inspector looks at it, is $1,500 enough to complete what has to happen for fixtures, right? So there's two things that they're looking for: work completed combined with, is there enough in the budget to complete the job? All right, just to give you some insight into how the inspector's looking at things when he or she goes out there. And then the first drawer request gets funded, and then when you're ready for the second drawer request, you're going to use this exact same spreadsheet and come back in here and fill it in. So let's say you want $500 for lighting, $2,500 for appliances, kitchen's now complete, bathrooms are somewhat complete, and again, I'm just kind of making this up as I'm going along here. $1,000 for roofing. Oftentimes roofing is one of the first things to get done, just to make sure you're keeping your place, you're keeping water out. And in this scenario, draw number 2 would be $9,000. Maybe you want a little bit for HVAC, so it'd be $15,000. And again, I'm just kind of playing with these numbers as we go through here. But this is what it looks like. And again, you then would put another date, right? So maybe the date for this one is, maybe it's 2 weeks later. And again, these are just examples here. So, and I share that because A, it doesn't have to be 2 weeks later. And again, the draw requests are mandated by when you need them and when they make sense. So that's pretty much just a quick overview of what the construction budget and construction process looks like. And actually, one other thing I'll say about the construction process is, people often ask, how soon do we fund from when we get a construction draw? And we say we fund within 5 days. And the reason, and oftentimes we do it sooner, but here's why it's important that you know that, so that you can communicate that to your contractors, right? Because if you tell your contractor, hey, it's going to take 5 days from when the inspection is, and we fund it in 2, they're going to love you, right? If it's the other way around, it's going to cause a problem. So to set the expectation with your contractor, tell them it's going to take 5 days. And the other thing, obviously, look, communication is a key piece to this and is important. Give us a heads up when you want, or an advance heads up when you're looking for that construction draw. So, if today's Thursday, you can reach out and say, hey, look, you know what, next Wednesday, I want to have a construction draw. Can you, line up the inspector, and I'm going to get this construction draw request over to you. I'll have it to you by Monday, but can you please set them up for Wednesday, right? So now you're planning ahead. You're giving us the heads up. We can reach out to the inspector, giving them plenty of time to make sure they can come out and accommodate you. They come out there Wednesday, they do their thing, they take their photos, they give us a report, and then we'll fund, as I said, within 5 business days. But oftentimes, if they're coming out there on Wednesday, by Thursday or Friday, the funds are in our client's account. But again, the biggest thing is just setting up the expectation with that contractor so that you're never in a position where he's like, hey, you said my money was going to be here today, and it's not here yet. You always want to set it up where you can get him funds earlier, he or she, earlier than promised. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this construction budget / process video. And if you have any questions, feel free to just leave a comment in the blog post below. Thanks.